Hey everybody, Ben here from the Bonehead podcast, and welcome to Dungeon Bowl Starting Rosters College of Light. So this is Bloodtithe Ben's favourite roster because it is mostly elves with a healthy bit of spice of humans, which is a really cool combination. So we're going to have a look at some example starting rosters for you at 1 million gold. Now, if you're playing a Dungeon Bowl league, it's probably going to be 1 million gold, and if you're going to be playing a competitive, like a constructed Dungeon Bowl event, starting at a roster of 1 million gives you a lot of opportunity to see, right, what can my basic package be, what can I add to it. So we're going to go through, have a look at the players that could be taken on the College of Light, and come up with some cool rosters for you as well. So let's have a look at the different players you can take for the College of Light. So the linemen here are going to be a choice for you between, actually it's not a choice, it's a mixture of Nobility linemen at 45k and Elven Union linemen. So you've got the benefit here of being able to take cheap linemen at movement 6 and with Fend, which is going to be incredibly useful to hold those corridors. Fend just stops them from following up, so it's going to really help you control those running lanes. And on the flip side, you've got some movement 6 Edge 2+ pieces as well. So you're going to be able to dodge away pretty easily. When it comes to picking up the ball from the ground, they've got a great advantage too. So the College of Light starts off with a really healthy mixture of players. The only way it could be any better, I think, is if you had goblins in there with that extra cost decrease. Anyway, you backed up by a selection of runners too. So 0 to 4 runners. And the runner choices are Human Catchers and Elven Union Catchers. Both those positionals, movement 8. Obviously the Elven Union one at 100k is much better because strength 3 edge 2+. However, the Human Catcher coming in at a bargain price again of 65k, movement 8's great, strength 2 not so good, edge 3+ is fine. So it gives you that flex because the Elven Union Catcher is almost twice the price. So you've got the choice. You can potentially take 4 speed 8 players here, and both of them are essentially a little bit better than the fastest other players. Now the other players out there, we're looking at the College of Beasts can take 2 movement 8 werewolves, College of Shadows can take gutter runners, College of Life can take the war dancers, and the College of Life, no, not the College of Life, the College of Heavens has got skinks. But the Elven Union Catchers and the Human Catchers are great pickups here for the runners. Now 0 to 2 Elven Union Blitzers. Blitzers are great. Movement 7, Strength 3, Edge 2+ players are great. These guys come with Sidestep, and Sidestep in the dungeon environment is absolutely brilliant because I know you're going to get punched. In Dungeon Bowl, you are going to get punched. Block's going to keep you alive, and Sidestep is going to mean that you can position yourself exactly where you want to be to add a support to one of your players, to take away supports from one of theirs. That Sidestep is going to be so useful, and in a constructed event, those guys get dodge immediately. Blodge, Step, Movement 7, Edge 2+, those are going to be some incredible star players for Dungeon Bowl. And you've got backed up by a selection of throwers here. So the Imperial Nobility Thrower with Running Pass, actually more useful than you'd think. Movement 6, Edge 3+, both average, Passing 3+, average, Pass, useful. But Running Pass is going to allow this Nobility Thrower to wander up, chug the ball to where it wants to go, and then carry on moving to protect that ball carrier. Now in a game of 11s, that's a moderately, vaguely useful thing. In Dungeon Bowl, it's great. You can fob the ball off to one of your dudes, and with the Elven Union players over here, including the catchers, you're looking at Edge 2+, so it's a really good throw, and that movement, it just gives you an extra player. Or you can just take the Elven Union thrower here, and with Edge 2+ and Pass 2+, if you're going to be passing the ball, it's a very effective way to do things. So the College of Light gives you a real good mix of cheap players and great players. So let's have a look at some rosters for the College of Light. So first up, we've got 3 Reroll mix here. This one comes in at 995, so 995,000 gold pieces. 3 Nobility Linemen backed up by 2 Elven Union Catchers and 2 Human Catchers. 2 Elven Union Blitzers and 2 Throwers, Elven Union Throwers, and 3 Rerolls. So straight up, this roster brings you 11 players in total, and you've got those 3 Nobility Linemen there being cheap enough to allow you to maximise the rest of your roster. You've got 2 Human Catchers who you can still use for that movement of 8. They've still got dodge, which even though their strength 2 is going to keep them alive, but basically that cash allows you to retain enough to keep those rerolls. Now you've got 3 rerolls and you can drop a reroll and boost one of your human catchers up to an Elf Union catcher, but I don't know how much benefit that's going to be. You've got those 2 Elven Union blitzers and you've got 2 Elven Union throwers there to just be your general players. Now this roster is cool because the nobility linemen being cheap, great, it's always nice to have a tax rebate, but that fend is going to be really useful because you can just chuck them down a corridor and not worry about it. So when you're looking at starting out with the College of Light, blitzers, you want them on the board. You've got the potential there of using all 4 of your catchers to spread out around the dungeon, and when you are opening a treasure chest, if the ball's in there, you don't have to roll to pick it up. It is just open the box, see if you die. Human catchers, Elven Union catchers, fast. Going to be able to get hold of that ball really quickly, and they're both as good as each other at picking up the ball if they don't get exploded. But you can also just bring them on later via a teleporter and have that movement 8 dodge be really effective for those human catchers. So it's a cool mix of players. I mean, this would play out brilliantly on the 11's pitch, but what it does do is it gives you as much combat power as this roster can take in those 2 Elven Union blitzers and the most speed it can take at basically the most budget of price. But when you are starting out with Dungeon Bowl, you have probably already got the Blood Bowl team. And we're going to have a look at all these rosters for all these colleges and angle each one. We're going to have a couple of builds that kind of lean towards starting off with one team. So this is the human heavy roster. So you've got a human team or a nobility team. This is where you can kind of start with it. So human heavy comes in at 975,000. 3 linemen, 4 human catchers, 2 Elf Union blitzers and 2 human throwers. So what you've got here is mostly humans, but you cannot avoid taking Elven Union blitzers. I mean, you technically can, but you are leaving so much equity. It's almost like the War Dancers from the Life College. It's just, you'd be crazy not to take them. These guys are amazing. Block, sidestep, movement 7, edge 2+, strength 3. They're fantastic players. And you're not giving up anything because you still retain 4 speed 8 players in those human players in the human catchers, and what you get out of that is enough cash to take your 4th reroll. Now Dungeon Bowl is a really weird game. Alright, there's no turn limit in the way you play it standard. If you play it the way we recommend, there is a 16 turn limit, but actually 4 rerolls can go really quickly, and even though you don't have the integral agility here of the elves to dodge away, you've got those rerolls, so this roster gives you the opportunity to be a bit more punchy. And the human throwers here are actually the Imperial Nobility throwers, so they're not as good as human throwers, but that still gives you a really great selection of players. You've got those 2 block step pieces, you've got 4 movement 8 to go through the corridors and just find things, and you've got those nobility throwers who, with that potential of running past to play the role of a second player in that situation. I mean, you've got 11 players, 4 rerolls. You can even drop a reroll, take another player, and this is the thing with these rosters, is they're all a starting point. You can flex, you can absolutely change it up to your taste. Drop a reroll, boost a dude up to an elf catcher, whatever you want to do. You've got the potential here to flex out, to either get more players, to upgrade the other players. But if you've got a human team, this is potentially a really good place to start. You just need to get 2 elf blitzers and you're good to go. Okay, so we've looked at the human heavy build. Let's look at the elf heavy build, or in this case, pure elves. So this one comes in bang on 1 million. It says nobility lineman, it's actually Elven Union lineman. So 7 elf linemen, 2 catchers, movement 8, strength 3, 2 of those elven blitzers, and 3 rerolls. And this is the starting point. You can drop a reroll, boost an elf lineman up to either a thrower or another catcher if you want to. But if you've got an elf team, this is where you start going with this. You just pick it up, and then you can even start flexing out, and that's the really cool thing. But if you want to relive your 2nd edition Dungeon Bowl vibes, if you've got an Elven Union team that is absolutely made of nothing but yellow plastic, this is a great place for you to start. Elves are vulnerable, and in the Dungeon Bowl situation you are going to be punched a lot, and elves don't take punching very well, but actually what you can do is use that agility to just keep escaping. 1 blitzer turn is going to be fine, and you've got those 2 block step pieces, and those 2 movement 8 pieces to be able to flex through the dungeon. And every one of your linemen here is a positional. Movement 6, edge 2+, gives you so much flexibility, whether you're dodging around, running around, and because they're strength 3, they can actually punch just as well too. And the way Dungeon Bowl goes is there is that first element where you are spread out throughout the dungeon trying to find the ball, and that is gonna give you plenty of speed and plenty of agility to do that. And like I say, you can kind of flex all of these rosters and tailor them to your choice. If you look at the Impure Elves build, this one also comes in bang on a million. And what we've got here are 4 Nobility linemen, 4 Elven Union linemen, 2 catchers, 2 blitzers, 3 rerolls. So essentially what you've done here is trade in 3 Elf Union linemen for 4 Nobility ones. Now what this does is it gives you 12 players. You still have that edge advantage, but now you've got a mixture of complete victims that you can send off to their death in a corridor where you get to use that fend skill to hold your opponent back, or you just send them off to open treasure chests and use them as kind of strength 3 Noblars. So the Impure Elves roster, if you've got an elf team, you just need 4 human looking linemen and you are good to go. Or you can go max speed here. So the max catch roster comes in at 985. 4 Nobility linemen. 4 of those movement 8 Elf Union catchers, 2 of the blitzers, 1 thrower and 2 rerolls. So this again builds on the other rosters that we looked at. You've got less in the way of rerolls, and this roster only comes in at 11 players, so you've got less in the way of durability, but because of how Dungeon Bowl works, the rest of those players are not going to end up on the pitch until turn 4, 5, 6 anyway. But what this does allow you to do is take those Nobility linemen and position them in corridors to protect you, while you run around with 4 movement 8 pieces. Now Elf Union catchers are definitely in the running for some of the best positionals in the game, and when you've got 4 of those guys and 2 of the blitzers, you're in a really solid point, and you've got those 2 rerolls as well. So if you're going for a constructed build, having that thrower is going to give you opportunity to take the leader reroll potentially as well. Max catch is really all about speed, but you've got that excellent combination of the 100k catchers backed up by the 45k human linemen. Now that fend is going to be able to protect most corridors, and that's going to be incredibly useful. But I've got to come back to the 3 reroll mix. I think it just gives you the best blend of players for this roster. Those Nobility linemen, they're cheap, they're disposable, they've got fend. You've got 2 of the elf catchers, 2 human catchers, which is just a cheap way of getting speed 8. 2 of those block step blitzer guys who are going to be really effective, and you've got those 2 throwers. Now throwing in a dungeon, it's interesting, okay? You can bounce it off the wall, you can have a really good time with it, and this roster is going to give you the most flexibility. Now the downside of this dungeon is that you are going to come up against other teams with strength 4 blockers, so you are going to have to evade them and just capitalize on the ability to chuck humans in the way and dodge around with elves. This is going to be a tough college to take against some of the other ones, but a lot of the time you're going to be able to speed your way through a dungeon, grab the ball, and your opponent is not going to be able to bring on their reserves quick enough to stop you, and that is a very exciting way to play the game. Anyway guys, let me know what you think of the College of Light and some of the rosters we put together. I want to know if there's some other builds out there, because it's a brand new format and we're having a lot of fun exploring it, very much like your team explores the dungeon. Anyway, I'm going to disappear. Thank you very much for watching. We'll be back soon with more Blood Bowl content. Happy dungeoneering.
Thanks very much for watching. We really appreciate your support. If you want to help support the channel even further, please like and subscribe, or come join us on our Patreon. We have early access to content, we get loads of feedback from you guys, and we try and do competitions as much as we can. Or you can get yourself some Bonehead podcast merch on our Spreadshirt site. So if you want to support a team, especially for the Bonehead Championship, you can pick up a shirt, a mug, things like that. It all helps support the channel and we really appreciate it. Anyway, links below. Thank you very much. Happy blocking.